Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you. You're watching another episode of Encounter. Today, we have the president of the non-governmental organization NGO Befrienders. Befrienders is involved in the fight against the prevention against suicide. Also, the NGO helps people who feel lonely or who are suffering from mental health. And for this episode, we have Mr. Jose Emilien. Thank you very much for being here, and a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Before we start and we get into the gist of what we're going to speak today, tell us in the big lines, what does Befriender do and for how long you have been doing it?
Yes, thanks for letting me introduce Befrienders. Befrienders is part of Befrienders Worldwide, which is an international organization present in more than 170 countries around the world. And Befrienders Worldwide is a remnant of Samaritan, which was created in 1953 by Dr. Chadbara, a Reverend Chadbara. So he created Samaritan, which became Befrienders and Befrienders Worldwide. Befrienders Mauritius was created in 1995 by Dr. Ibu Mansour, which who I think many people knew him. He was a very reputed doctor, and who saw again in Mauritius that the number of suicides every year was going more than 100, 150 in a year, which was very dramatic. So he said, we must do something. He created the Mauritian branch, and we are affiliated with the South African branch.
You mentioned that Befrienders Mauritius was created in 1995, so that was almost 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
The rate of suicide back then was already 100 per year?
More than 100.
More than 100.
Much more than 100. And as the years went by, we have been stabilizing the rate. Last year, we have the statistics up to September last year, because every year on the 10th of September, it's the Prevention of Suicide Day. In 2018, in July, there were 51 completed suicide and 166 attempts. In a year, we go around 75, 80 people who commit suicide. And this has been stabilizing and going slightly down, but unfortunately, I must tell you that according to statistics of World Health Organization, we have on 10 people who make an attempt, who want to commit suicide, 8 will give warning signs, but 2 won't. So it means that somehow or other, we will always have a number of persons who will commit suicide, which we were not aware of.
And whether it is 80, 70 or 80 or even 90 for this year?
Yeah.
It's still, or even it is one. It's one suicide too much.
It's one too much, yes.
So what I would like to tell the viewers, Encounter is normally a different kind of program where we speak more a little bit about spirituality and philosophy. But why I have called you in this program today is because people who are suffering from mental health, people who have suicidal tendencies, are not aware they are suffering from such a disease. They know to an extent, but it's all. Can we say that it's similar, that a drug addict does not know that he's a drug addict?
Yes, but to some extent.
He does not know the extent to which the problem is that big.
We're going to affect him.
So I believe that it's up to us, society, to be able to pick up those symptoms, to be able to help those people who are displaying those symptoms but are not aware of the extent of the problem. Whether you're a brother or a sister, or a father or a mother, a son, a daughter, or even as a teacher or as a friend. So I think it is up to society to be able to pick up those symptoms or any signs that are being displayed so that we can work around it, because as we mentioned, one suicide is one too much. What is the biggest problem that leads to suicide?
Well, it's a variety of problems which may lead to suicide. You can't say that one is greater than the other. if you take the age range, the younger people will want to commit suicide most of the time because of a broken relationship, a divorce, a girlfriend or boyfriend who has left them, and they don't know how to cope, and on the spur of the moment, they say, yo, my life is ending here, and they want to die. Then you have...
What is the age range? What is the age range for this type
for
of...
people who commit suicide?
Yes.
Well,
especially in terms of relationships.
now, normally, a few years back, it was from 20, 25 to, say, 50.
It's gotten younger now.
It's getting, that's what I was going to say, it's getting more younger and younger. Now you have adolescents who commit suicide, who do attempts at suicide. And we even had a small child 2 or 3 years ago of 11 who committed suicide. Then that's when I say the reasons why they committed suicide are multiple. You have people coming from broken families who don't know, the young especially, they don't have a place in society, they don't know where they are, they don't have parents' love and encadrement. Yeah. And they, like the child I mentioned, of 11, he didn't know what to do and he committed suicide. You mentioned depression, which is a very common cause because depression, it must be considered as a normal illness, sickness, as any other sickness. You always have a taboo, as you have a taboo on suicide and you have a taboo on depression. When someone goes to see a psychiatrist, the etiquette mad is already on his head. As we must consider it as a normal a sickness as anyone else. Perhaps it will not be eradicated from the person, but it can be maintained just as a diabetes or hypertension. You have diabetes, you will have it all your life.
And have a normal life.
And lead a normal life. A person with depression, with appropriate treatment, he can get out of it, but he will always be a person in danger whenever a problem, if he may come back to the depression, but if he's well surrounded by his family, by friends, and he takes the necessary medication, he's going to lead a quite normal life.
Mr. Jose, just for our viewers, can you share, is there a phone number that people can call if they feel suicidal or alone?
Yes.
Please share it with us.
We have a hotline, which is 800-9393. We have also the office number, 467-0160, which people can phone on that. Then a second service we offer to population is what we call a face-to-face. If you don't want to talk on the phone, you don't mind to see have your identity, you can take a rendezvous and you come to the office.
How many calls do you get per year, let's say?
Per year, I can tell you per month.
Per month,
In a month, we have around 140, 150 calls. Sometimes we have what we call peak periods. You know, people get affected when they have a particular period. For example, during Christmas, New Year, most of the people who are alone, who have a broken family, the young who don't have any parents, they get affected very much more when they see around families celebrating with father, mother, and children, and that's a very big problem, and that's the period when people get depressed and commit suicide. You have around exams results, when what they expected didn't come. You have around other festivals like Diwali, or Eid. Whenever you have a big festival, that's a peak period. So to come back to the number to your question, we have about 140, 50. We have also more and more people coming to our office for face-to-face because most of the time we don't have money to pay psychologists because it's very expensive, as you know, per hour. So we do the counseling, we do the listening. We have around 15 per month people coming to our office.
let's say that I call to your office or I come to your office. I work around, I get a rendezvous so that I can come see someone from the organization.
From our team.
What happens then?
Then, if you are coming alone, you have a problem alone. Most of the time, you have a problem with someone else, with your wife, your family. But maybe you have a problem on your road because of drug abuse or alcoholism, whatever. Then we have a special room where we can, like a consultation room. Then we'll do what you call active listening. We'll let you vent out, give out. We'll reassure you that all you say is going to stay here. It's confidential. And we'll let you take out everything you have inside. And then we know how to go back inside, because most of the time, the problem you are mentioning, which is making you depressive or suicidal, it's only the tip of the iceberg. You have a lot of problems inside which haven't been tackled. For example, you may not feel well. It may go back and back and back from your childhood. In your childhood, you have been abused or you have been beaten by your father, which makes you brutal with your conjoint. And we go back and we make you. Most of the time, you don't even realize that that's the source of the problem.
It was a trigger.
It was a trigger. And then, with appropriate question, we ask you, how was your childhood? What happened? And then you remember some things happened which has been going deep inside in your mind. That's a natural process of protection by our body. We have something, we obliterate it, and it goes inside, and we don't, but it's still there. And we have to get it out so that you may move forward, accept the fact, the problem which, acceptation is a very great thing.
And so you have professionals who work with you to be able to...
We are formed. Now we have a psychologist who comes now and then, because we have been formed we have a kit by Befrienders Worldwide, which we adapt to the Mauritian population, our own realities. All volunteers, I must mention, that when they come to be volunteer for us, they have to follow a 30-hour training course.
30-hour training course.
Training course.
By Befrienders.
By Befrienders, which involves role plays and all aspects which we may have on the phone. Then, if we see that the person has a big problem which we won't be able to tackle because we have certain limits, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And then we refer. We have a big referrals books. If, for example, we see that the person has a drug problem, we have other NGOs or hospitals which treat this. Then we accompany the person and we tell him it's good perhaps that you contact that because your problem, you have identified the problem, now we have to do something with it. If we see that the person needs a more professional approach, then we
you contact the other organization, or you tell the person to contact?
We tell the person to go. If the person has some difficulties, we may contact the person saying that we are sending someone. For example, you talk about depression. We have Francisco, for example, which we work very closely together. And we phone them and say, we have had someone who needs your help, and we send them. And they do the same thing with us. Because some people who are depressed, they don't do this active listening. What we do, they send these people.
Wow, that's amazing. You have a good partnership with other NGOs.
Yes.
I did not ask you yet, where is Befrienders found in Mauritius?
Yes, our location, I talked about the phone numbers. Our location is in Mobasa, Mosque Road, the road which is in front of a police station, on the first floor of a building, right in the corner of Royal Road and Mosque Road.
And do you always need more and more volunteers to help you out?
We need volunteers. We need volunteers. We, as you mentioned, volunteers. We are going to do another training course because it involves a lot of work. Donc, we do it every 2 years. We did it last year. We have a team of about 55 volunteers. And we are going to do another training course. If ever you are interested, you can phone us and we jot down your name. when we are going to do the course, we are going to advertise it in the newspapers and phone you. And if you're still interested, you may come to that. I must mention also the hours, opening hours. We are operational from 9 hours in the morning until 21 hours at night, 7 days on 7.
And the hotline is 24/7?
Exactly.
800, the number is 800-9393.
Then you have also a Facebook page. You can send your message, but many persons, especially the young, who send messages.
This is how Facebook. I got in touch with you.
Yes, on our Facebook page. And we have slots of 3 hours. Our volunteers come 2 by 2. A slot goes from 9 to 12 to 3, 3 to 6 in the afternoon, and 6 to 9. If ever you phone during one of the slots and you don't have anyone, it may mean that the volunteer is still on the phone, or perhaps as they are volunteer, they work, so we have to do with these constraints. Perhaps he's not in. You can phone on the other slot, and you will get someone.
Fantastic. Us being part of society, what are the symptoms, what are the signs that we should look for in people who are suffering from mental health, who are suffering from suicidal tendencies?
Suicidal tendencies, yes, good question. Because most of the time, people, when they have had a suicide in their neighborhood, when we tell them, did the person do this, yes, we did, but we did not take care of. We may categorize in 3. We have verbal signs, non-verbal signs, and behavioral signs. Verbal signs is the most obvious. So you have someone telling you, oh, you know, I'm fed up with life. Without me, you will be better. And most of the time, what people do, well, we don't mind. We say you're just talking nepot, as we say here. And this is the most obvious sign, because if a person is telling you, I'm fed up with life, you are going to be better without me, in a few days I'm going to be away, you won't see me, it means there's something going on behind his mind.
But most of the time people will take it as a joke.
As a joke, or as I tell you, people will get fed up, arrête cause n'importe.
All right.
That's the obvious reaction, but you must take care of that. Then we have the non-verbal signs. The non-verbal sign, as you may know in communication, our non-verbal, our body language is about 85 to 90% of our communication. And what we speak may be 10, 15, but you can detect on the person. We have facial expression, you have eye contact. A person who never look at you eye to eye, it means always looking down, means that he may have a very low self-esteem. You have his postures, hand movements, slooping, or all this body language you must take care of. That's the non-verbal language. And then you have the behavioral.
This is the biggest tell,
This is the biggest you can see, because whatever change in a behavior in a person, if you have someone who was always extrovert and who was a good lover of life, going out, and suddenly or slowly he's getting inside in his nutshell, not going outside, get a young, always staying in his room and not going, you must ask yourself, but why is that change? Any change in the behavior can be. It may be also in the eating habits, someone becoming bulimic or anorexic, and any change in that category, you must ask why. Put the question to the person, why is it that such thing is happening? Or uncontrolled emotions. You get angry most of the time. Hysteria, whenever someone telling him, or on the contrary, you don't speak at all, you get inside, you're getting depressed. All these, maybe the signs, the first signs of depression, and meaning that there's something happening, and this is where you must
Be more careful.
be more careful, listen
Definitely.
to. As we always say, everybody, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and most of the time we talk twice and listen
Half.
half. That's most, en résumé, the signs which you can see in every person. We have another thing also, which is quite common for people who have committed suicide. When we ask the family of the neighborhood, you give away your treasured belongings. You may have your mobile, which you paid, I don't know, the latest model. You have your records, your CDs, or whatever which you like, and then suddenly I come to you, I say, you know, take it for you. You're a good friend of mine, take it for you, I won't need it. You are happy, you are having a present, but you must otherwise it. That's the question which we must ask.
Why?
Why is it you are giving away your treasured belongings or your jewels or whatever? This is another sign. So all these small signs, you can detect any change in behavior, in your way, your composure, and which most of the time people don't
Take into consideration. But there have been cases where people were able to detect those signs and
Yes.
prevent the suicide.
Fortunately, yes, even we, fortunately, when we have talked to the persons about that, people have. And we are getting more and more what we call third-party calls, which is a very good thing. Because people, with all the awareness campaigns we are doing, people are getting more and more careful about their family, their neighborhood. And people call us. I have noticed in someone, in my child, in my cousin, in my friend, in my colleague, something wrong. Can you do something?
What do you do then? What happens then?
We do the same process as we talked before. We contact the person, whatever person. We ask the third party, ask your friend if he allows us to phone him.
That's very delicate.
Of course, you can't barge in on someone
No.
and do something. You must ask first before. But then, most of the time, the person will say yes, we can phone. Or even we may take the risk of, if the person says no, it happens. But don't tell him I told. We must tell that your friend contacted him. What I can do, I can say that a friend of yours, I don't know his name, I'll keep your anonymity, but I must say where I got your number. Then our reasoning is that even if a person will get mad at us, it doesn't matter, but he's a person we have to save. So we must take the risk. We are here to do that. We phone him, and most of the time, I can tell you, the person is very happy that someone is taking care of him. And I must also mention, perhaps, that an attempt at suicide is a cry for help. When people gives all the signs we mentioned, it's a helping hand he is looking for.
A cry for attention?
A cry for attention. A cry for attention, and an attempt at suicide is again the last part because he's crying for help. And what happens when he commits suicide is that most of the time no one came.
All right.
But there may be also, if I may add something, that you have emotional blackmail. Most of the time, in love affairs, you are going with someone, maybe a woman or a man, happens both sides, and I say, okay, I'm no longer in love with you, I met someone else. Then you say, if you leave me, I'm going to commit suicide. And that's also you may have, which is not a very good thing, but because you can't submit to blackmail, it won't lead to anywhere. Then,
Mr. Jose, anything you would like to add up before?
Yes, perhaps I may say to all those watching, if you have a problem, you must come forward to look for help. Don't keep your problem inside. You don't know how to cope with it. Come outside. Then we may say also to prevent, perhaps as a measure of prevention, we always say in our awareness campaigns, you may lead a more healthy life. You must have something, a becky, as I always stated, you may lean on. It may be music, whatever you like. It may be sports. It may be spirituality. It may be religion, which is different from spirituality. It may be a good friend. You have something, you know you have a crutch to lean on, and we also may act as it. You have a problem, you can phone Befrienders. We may accompany you and see how we can help you, but don't keep it inside. Look for help. There's no shame in looking for help.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome.
And thank you for sharing what your NGO does and helping others out. That's very commendable.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this episode of Encounter. If you have any questions, queries, or even proposals, drop an email. It's encounter@mbc.itnet.mu. Until the very next program, goodbye.